isn't there in being also a kind of a qualitative of being aware?
No.
Not for someone, but being in itself?
Okay, so this is a funny one, these words, isn't it? There are some people that use the word awareness as I would use the word being. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, being doesn't need to be aware, because this is where meanings are funny. For me, being is everything. All there is everything. And everything doesn't need to be aware because it's everything. It doesn't need anything because it's everything. So what arises within, everything is the individual who experiences awareness in my terms, the way I would use awareness, and that essentially awareness is part of a story. It's part of the artificial reality. Awareness, as far as I'm concerned, needs something for it to be aware of. So essentially for me, awareness is an absolutely dual happening, apparently.
But isn't there a kind of intelligence in being?
No.
No?
Not in that sense, no, there isn't. I mean, this is so... because there is only everything. Everything doesn't need an intelligence, but intelligence arises within. But liberation isn't the knowing of something or the awareness of something. It is absolutely beyond that and doesn't need to know or be aware of anything. It just is. And doesn't know it is. If it knows it is, it would have to step aside or apart in order to know that it is. So the whole idea that creation is about, some people say, consciousness arising and then going apart from itself in order that it can really to know itself. That's the story of the mind. That's the mind, the seeking mind likes stories, and one of its most favourite stories is that consciousness goes apart from itself in order to meet itself one day, like in a film. Virtual game, it's a story. There isn't anything out there that goes apart in order to meet itself, but within the whole there arises an apparent story about the individual, which is just meaningless added software. It's meaningless, it's just something that seems to happen. For the individual, of course, it seems incredibly important and significant. My life is significant and important. And I'm going to go somewhere and find something. The being, as far as I'm concerned, or what if you want to call it awareness, you can. I think awareness is a very confusing word, so I tend to see it only as something that a person experiences. But as far as being is concerned, it is totally and utterly impersonal. And it is totally uncaused, unrelated, impersonal beingness. So it has no need, it has no relationship. It's a mystery, it's a paradox. The problem to the individual is that the individual wants to give being or the totality some sort of characteristic that it can recognise. Well, it can't. It won't ever recognise. I have to also add that, of course, this is being. Being isn't some sort of thing up in a church in the clouds, the being church, comes down and visits somehow. This is being. This is uncaused, unrelated emptiness. This is.
So, what is intelligence?
What is?
It's a word, intelligence.
Intelligence is just another description of something that has an intelligence or a knowing or something for me.
Something that has
A knowing.
and has no.
It's something that arises in the whole,
Mm.
as part of the whole.
Mm.
Would it be able to act or express itself?
No, that's the whole point about being. Being doesn't act. Being is uncaused, unrelated wholeness. It's totally impersonal. So it has no intention at all.
Yes.
It isn't out there waiting for everybody to become liberated, because being unliberated, being a seeker, being separate, is being. It is already whole, except for the seeker. So being, the cause of everything, and no thing, has no intention. But within the manifestation of being, there arises something called intention, which is just a part of the whole. It arises as a story within the dream. It's just another aspect of the whole. Like everything. It isn't the whole. But the whole is it. I mean, but let's be clear about something here. You know, we're talking about deep mystery here. We're talking about something that is spoken about in the Gospels and the Scriptures and all of those great apparent works. Out of all of the bullshit that's also included in those writings, there's also a description of the mystery of this mystery, which can't be known. It's unknown.
Okay, so I was thinking of inspiration.
Experience.
Being inspired.
Inspiration.
Artists.
Well, that's all to do with the story. That's all to do with intention. An artist intends to create something, and actually, as an individual, would believe they are doing that themselves out of their own volition. Actually, all it is something that's happening in the whole.
How do you...
I don't. You see, the whole problem with the is that the individual is continually asking, how do I? Well, actually, nobody does. They live in the illusion that they do, and that they have a choice to do one thing or the other. In reality, in the natural reality, there is no one, and there's no how to.
So how would your wife be?
Let's ask.
It's amazing stuff.
Where the rubber meets the road.
As the self, does everybody have a psychological necessity to have a self? Or
No. It's what happens. There isn't anything or anyone that needs to be a self. It's just what happens. As a tiny child, there is simply beingness. And then the brain, as it sophisticates in the first year, it then becomes capable of seeing out of the body and seeing what it assumes big lights. It believes it's a separate world. So what it does is it constructs an energy in the body called me, in order to represent it and protect it from what it sees as a threatening world. So the me, the individual, is there only as a function against separation.
then there must be the fear of not being
Fear,
separate.
fear
Oh,
arises.
shoot. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the child goes into an individual with fear and a sense of being separate, because that's all it is in it.
And yes, but if there wasn't like something causing the separation,
No,
the
there's
self
nothing.
would dissolve by itself by the time, but it doesn't.
No, there is no cause. except for the individual. Nothing has any cause. There's just what happens. It's causeless. What is happening in this room is utterly causeless. It's not going anywhere. But for the individual adds cause to it because the individual thinks that what's happening to them is important and is significant, and it's about a story which is leading to. There isn't anything that's going on. There isn't anything that's been anywhere. It just is what is. And isn't. Is there a mic up this end? To do something in order to become fulfilled.
So could we say the identification came less and less?
It might do, it can do, it might well have done. The sense of me might have diminished. It does often in the awakening, the sense of me can diminish. But that isn't liberation, of course. That's something that is insubstantial, that simply melts away. But you can live the rest of your life with a diminished me, of course. And what I'm trying to say is that, and I'm not sure where your question is, but there are no circumstances that bring about the end of the dream, the apparent end of the awakening, in which there is a seeker, and then there's nothing, there's no seeker, there's no experience, there's no glimpser, there just is nothing and everything, nothing. Timelessness. And then the seeker seems to come out of the other side and want what it thinks is just happened. And then you could say possibly that after that, suddenly liberation apparently happens, which is the end of everything. There's nothing left but what is apparently happening. There's no identity, there's no knowing, there's no awareness, there's only the unknowing beings, which is the natural reality. Because everything in this reality is being, except the seeker.
So, when awakening happens, there's seeing that there's nobody there, but there's I that sees that nobody is there.
There's really a seeing,
Something like
there's
that.
no one to see, there just is no one. And then something comes out of the other side of the seeker, thinking it knows that experience, but it's... Does that help? No. So it's like
Nothing.
what's happening. Does that help? It's very simple and obvious and very ordinary. Does that help?
It sounds extraordinary.
To the individual, it would be absolutely amazing.
What seems
When the individual dies and it happens, it's wow, God. Because it's all embracing. It's not a personal enlightenment. It's simply there is just no one embracing this. So then suddenly everything is a miracle. The floor, the sky here, the curtains, the noise, the sound is a miracle. It's a miracle in the sense that it is now not what it seemed to be, just something else that was happening. It is now nothing being everything. It is now nothing flowing. It's now nothing bodying. It's now nothing curtaining. Everything is that. Everything is that.
But nothing is the ground of everything.
Yes.
Something like that.
So, another way you can describe it is that it is absolute love, but it's unconditional love. It's a love that can't be known by that which is separate from it. Everything is that. So it's an in-loveness and all. So the individual sitting on a seat seems very ordinary, because of course what the individual has done has grown up sitting on a seesaw. So the individual really knows about sitting on a seat. So sitting on a seat is really boring. Because I know what sitting on a seat. Oh, everybody knows. I want enlightenment. I just, and then there's suddenly that no collapses. Wow.
Uh-huh. Okay.